It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Caplan.
I have real confidence that our football operations can once again create a dominant football team.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
All right, Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Dropped this morning, 6 a.m. A new one is out. The guys had some interesting things on some of the things that we will touch on today. We had a good one with Mosher yesterday. If you missed that, go back and check it out on our YouTube channel. And it is brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. Adam Caplan is here. He looks to be in a new location for this edition of Football at 4. Adam, what's going on, man?
Good to see you, Mike. Yeah, I'm in my upstairs office here. And by the way, Yale, what is the significance of wearing the Yale T-shirt? I'm surprised to see that today.
All right, so yesterday I had the Vanderbilt T-shirt on, and Jason Fitz was in Nashville, and I had there was no thing. So every college campus that I have visited, I have a T-shirt from. So yesterday I had Vanderbilt on. Today I have Yale. I got a whole bunch of rando places, and people always say, what's this for? You didn't go there. I visited that campus, so I bought a T-shirt while I was there.
All right. Did you go to Louis' lunch?
I did not go to Louis' lunch, but I went to the pizza shop that it's the oldest pizza shop in the country. What's it called?
I know. It's my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite. It is the name is escape.
I know.
Frank Pepes.
Frank Pepes. Yep, Frank Pepes. Now, I got a good Frank Pepes story, right? So there's two Frank Pepes, right? There's the original, and then there's the new one that's around the corner. So we're standing.
Well, it's actually not. Well, you're talking about the spot. Are you talking about the spot?
No, there's another Frank Pepes. They built it. There's a newer one, right? So
they have like 5 of them. Go ahead.
Well, everyone's standing outside the old one. There's this line out the door. So I say to my buddy, hey, there's another Frank Pepes around the corner. The lady says, it's not the same oven. You got to go to this one. Yep.
That's the spot. It's called the spot.
Okay.
Yes, it's connected to it. And then right down the street is, I guess, a relative who owns Sally's, which I've never been to. So that was when I was at ESPN, we had one in West Hartford, 25 minutes away. And then the one in New Haven was about 40 minutes from Bristol. But you're right, Mike. That oven is, early 1920s or something, something like that. Unbelievable. You have the coal on that pizza is something that you're just not going to find. You have to get it.
It was outstanding. So there's the genesis of the Yale T-shirt. I was actually on my way to Newport, Rhode Island. We stopped off to go to Frank Pepes, and I said, while we're here, we might as well tour the campus. We walked around Yale. I bought the T-shirt, and then we went to Newport, and what a great town Newport is. So,
Louis' Lunch, by the way, what it is it's like a stand on the side of a street. The hamburgers, people love it. Now, I think it's for drunks, but quite frankly, it's at late at night. When I eat meat, I don't eat meat anymore. But when I did, I went there. They put it on white bread, okay? You don't put a burger on white bread. But people love it. I'll give it to them. They always have a line at night because people, when they're on the town, they like to drink and get a burger.
Well, it's funny because, doing the keto, it's hard to find. So there's this bread that's keto bread that I can eat. So I have to eat my burgers with this bread now. But you're right. I don't like eating it without the bun, but I'm used to it. But if you're drunk, you probably don't know the difference. So, what's the difference, right? All right, Adam. So a couple things we want to dive into. We had a good segment yesterday. Really enjoyed it. And then right at the end, between that segment and then when we got to the end of the show, the Eagles made a couple interesting moves. Their assistant coaches had a lot to talk about. I want to get your thoughts on, but there's only 2 quarterbacks on the current roster. Jamie Newman was one of those guys that, at one point, he was one of the top-ranked quarterbacks in that class. He fell kind of down the list, and then the Eagles said, we're not even going to bring you to camp. So what's the deal there, and what are they going to do to fill that spot?
All right, Mike, so really the word around the league was for Newman, had he played last year, remember, he opted out and also transferred, which is, you just don't see that. He might have been a 4th or 5th round pick had he played at Georgia and had a good year. But he had a lot of issues with his mechanics on tape. He has a good arm. He's got good size. He's a guy that more or less the Eagles saw as maybe a potential practice squad quarterback that they could develop. But from what I understand is he didn't do well. No matter what's been out there, some people are telling me that the reports that he was doing well. I can't comment on that. I can just tell you what I know. We did some reporting on this. He did not look good. I do not expect him back. Sometimes you cut a guy early. You let the agent know, hey, listen, we need to make this roster move. We need to create some space on the roster, but we want to bring him back for training camp. That's not what I understand of the situation. From barring a surprise, he won't be back. And you're right. They're down to 2 quarterbacks. They're going to sign another one, I'm told. I don't think they're going to sign 2, but I know that they're going to sign 1. And it could be the guys to keep an eye on. They all fit the West Coast offense. They're guys who've played in it because the Eagles will run a version of a West Coast offense. Sean Mannion, who was drafted by the Rams, and Sean McVay coached him. That's one guy. Nick Mullins, who played against the Eagles last year when the Eagles went into Santa Clara and beat the Niners, who played in West Coast offense. So those are 2 guys to keep an eye on now that we're looking at past OTAs, now that OTAs are over.
Yeah, Mannion with the Rams, as you mentioned, and Mullins with the 49ers. So 2 guys who have some starting experience, actually, not just some random college guy with nothing. That would be interesting to bring some guys in. But they're going to have to bring someone in. You can't roll into camp with just these 2 guys, correct?
Right. No, they're going. I was told they're definitely adding the quarterback, and those are the quarterbacks I was told to keep an eye on. They may work them out. I don't know how they're going to do this, but you don't need to work out quarterbacks anymore. You go by their tape. But Mullins has decent starting experience because of Jimmy Garoppolo's injury. He was the guy that they found as an undrafted free agent. When you watch him throw the ball, you scratch your head sometimes, but he gets it there. Now, the Eagles got to him last year, if you remember that Sunday night game where Jannard Avery went off. That was his really only good game as an Eagle. But Jannard Avery, by the way, is doing really well. He did well in OTAs. Moshe and I we're previewing linebackers inside the Birds for our Monday morning show, and believe me, we got some information on Avery.
As long as and that's good, by the way, Monday for the Inside the Birds podcast, listen for that. As long as they don't bring in Ben DiNucci, I'm okay with whoever the third quarterback.
I think he's still with Dallas, by the way.
Hopefully, Dallas can still have him. Trayvon Grimes, I felt like he was going to be the Paul. What was the guy's name? The wide
Paul Turner.
Paul Turner. We've had a plethora of Eagle wide receivers. It used to be Mr. Lehigh, right? You used to have a guy who was like Hank Baskett was Mr. Lehigh. These wide receivers would come out of nowhere in training camp.
Nate Brown.
Right?
Nate Brown.
So Trayvon Grimes feels like that guy, and yesterday waived injured. Give us the update on what that means, and could he be back?
So what happened was you cannot put a undrafted free agent or rookie on IR right now. So you have to waive him injured. And if he passes through waivers, he actually went on waivers yesterday. So right now, since we're past 4 o'clock, he could have been claimed off waivers. I doubt that he would be since he's injured. He goes on injury reserve today if he's not claimed. And the Eagles have 2 choices. They leave him on injury reserve for the entire season, or they reach an injury settlement with him. He cannot return for the roster for a specific amount of weeks to whatever the injury, with the language in the injury settlement is. And then they could bring him back, and they would only sign him to the practice squad in season. My understanding was they wanted to see him through here. They wanted him to go to training camp and see if he could push for that 5th receiver spot. That's the best he can do. Now that's out of the running. So right now on their roster, they only have 8 receivers. They're obviously going to add 2 more. They had 10. They cut the other kid. Was the former quarterback, Khalil Tate, who was with them last year. He was a major project. That didn't work out. Tell you what, the Eagles and the Broncos, youngest receiver corps in the league. The Eagles do not even have a vested veteran, which is almost unheard of. So let's see what happens here. Let's see what happens here with wide receiver. I do wonder if they're going to add someone for training camp.
They could have moved Tate to quarterback at least as a camp arm.
That's true. Khalil Tate. It's true. It's true.
Or if they want to use Greg Ward, right? They got more quarterbacks than they know what to do with, even though they only have 2. All right. Let me get your take on Aaron Moorhead and some of the things he had to say, because you just mentioned this is a very young room. One guy I'm interested in to hear what you know about is Travis Fulgham, because what are we supposed to think about this guy? Was he the guy that gave you – he was the best receiver in football numerically for a 4-week stretch. So can he be that guy? Can he be a serviceable guy? Or is he the guy that was completely out of the rotation?
Let's talk about the positive first before we get to the things that need to improve. He's really gifted. Moshe made a great point on our show this morning. He's really the only receiver in the rotation of size. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was not in the rotation. He right now, to me, he's on the outside looking in. He needs to earn a roster spot. He's obviously going to go to training camp, but he's got to earn his way. There's certainly an opportunity for Arcega-Whiteside, but Fulgham, 6'2.5", really good size. Could run for a guy's size. A good route runner, improved as a route runner. He's a little bit older, by the way, a little bit older than I expected. In fact, he is the oldest receiver in the roster. He turns 26, believe it or not, in September. Not that that's old, but he was a little bit older as a rookie at 23. He did not handle the situation with Alshon Jeffrey coming back. Moshe and I reported this last November. Because we were wondering, if you remember, I think you probably asked us, why is he not playing? And we were dumbfounded. And yeah, Alshon Jeffrey, remember, they were going to take some of Fulgham's time away, but Fulgham his approach to practice needed to be better, we were told. And Aaron Moorhead, the receivers coach, did talk about it. So I just think, from what I understand, is he just needs to be a more consistent practice player. Because as you know, they pretty much buried him on the depth chart. After Jeffrey came back, he barely played. And then also we did first report that he had ankle surgery after the season. So maybe that had something to do with it. But you know what's odd about it? He never was on the injury report. I went back and checked. So maybe he was just a minor thing that became worse. I don't know. But I'm told he's fine. So right now, when you look at it, he's still, they have three receivers who are vying for two spots in terms of starting. Fulgham, Rader, and Smith. Smith obviously should be starting as a high first-round pick they traded up for. Fulgham should be their size receiver or their X, although I know more coaches I talk to might downplay the X receiver and the Z receiver. They just need somebody with size, and I certainly get that. And Rager will probably see more time in the slot than he did before, and that would not, obviously, whenever they want Rager to play in the slot, that knocks Greg Ward off the field, which is fine. But I think there's going to be a really good training camp battle for specific roles there. I think that will be more defined as we get through training camp.
Hey, did Moorhead comment at all on where they view Arcega-Whiteside?
He did comment on it, but there wasn't anything specific. He said he did say, though. Now, I don't know what he meant by it, because Moorhead was not going to criticize anybody, but he said JJ had a tough year. But he wasn't into specifics. A lot of these coaches didn't want to criticize. If a reporter asked a leading question, they may have acknowledged that the guy was struggling, but they wouldn't say specifically what it was. But yeah, he did talk about Arcega-Whiteside. Moorhead did.
Adam, we've talked about it last week and you mentioned that Mailata you think is the betting favorite, heavy betting favorite. Yes. Did Jeff Stlin tip his hand at all to what's going to happen at left tackle?
No, he didn't. He acknowledged that it's the open competition, which we all knew was happening. And we know that Andre Dillard's back. Dillard, we talked about last week, had a good attitude, certainly. He's got a chip on his shoulder. And it's the best man can win. That's really what he said. Now, based on the way that Mailata played last season, Mike, he's the favorite. Doesn't mean he's going to win it. He's another guy. He's now got to show he can do it in training camp with real competition. Last summer, we had no offseason. Mailata, if people forget about this, he was on the COVID list during training camp for 2 weeks. So it took him a little bit while to get his bearings and his feet wet, so to speak, and get right physically. But once he did, the way it was explained to me was that the Pittsburgh and Baltimore games really convinced the Eagles that this kid could be special. To do it against sort of the NFL's best defense is the way Mailata played. But again, he's new to the football. This is only his fourth year of playing American football. We only know him from rugby. And he first put a helmet on in April of 2018. So let's not go crazy thinking he's going to be great. But he's got a ton of upside. But he's got to be consistent. He's got to do it day to day. And he's got to do it in training. I
know this sounds wild, Adam, but I've kind of compared it to like what Joel Embiid, just at the size freak who you don't see anybody. He's 6'8", 350 pounds. And Embiid just had zero experience and came over. He was the best player in Kansas when he was a freshman that Bill Self ever saw after playing, a year of high school basketball. So if Mailata continues to, I'm not, Joel Embiid possibly the MVP of the league down the road. I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Fame left tackle, but just the size and athletic ability kind of reminds me of a guy with the lack of experience coming in at such an inexperienced having success.
Yeah, Mike, by the way, he's well over 350. Yeah, Mailata's way bigger than that.
No, he's like 380, right? He's like 380, 390.
We're not sure. Jeff and I are trying to, we've heard things. We're trying to confirm exactly what his weight is. He's heavier than he's ever been. but his body fat, I know this. We were checking into it last year. Let's say he was 370, 375. He was in great shape last summer. So I don't know. I've never seen it. I've covered this business for 21 years. Never seen a story like this. Never seen anyone look like this. At his first practice in 18 at OTAs, I remember being there, and I know he had no idea what he was doing. But seeing his footwork, I'm like, okay, there's something here with this guy. I don't know if he'll make it. And then you see what he is now, and you go, oh, boy, there's something here.
Not to kind of like, how do you find that guy? Who tips you off to draft? Like, was someone going to draft him that they needed to draft him? If you go back to, why would they draft him? Who else knew about it? Like, that story is kind of odd looking back at it now.
So here's what I remember. Okay, here's what I remember now. This is spring of 18. I'm fairly certain. And again, this is when I found out about it after the draft, because I wanted to. I was like, who is this guy? So they sent Jeff Stlin to us. He had a pro day. Not every team attended because he's a rugby player. Because you could just get the tape of pro days, but Stlin went there and he was convinced. When he came back, he told Harry Roseman about it, and Roseman, to his credit, he doesn't know. Look, you should always listen to your coaches, but in that building, Jeff Statlin's voice is the voice of God when it comes to the offensive line. Nothing happens without Stlin saying yes when it comes to the offensive line, pretty much. And he kind of convinced them they should trade up for him, and they did. And even if Milau's a backup for his career, this is a hell of a 7th-round pick. Really is so far.
Let's get your take, because I think last week we had Avonte Maddox in the slot, and they had Michael Jacquet out on the outside here. So yesterday, you're talking about this secondary. I know they're going to try to put a good spin on it, but give us a feel of what they think about, of the guys who are here, not named Slay. What do they think about that group?
Yeah, I think you just have to understand when reporters do not get to see the OTA rules have changed with the Eagles, and other teams are doing this. They're only giving them 15, 20 minutes to watch warm-ups. So they're not even, and remember, Eagles aren't doing 7-on-7 or 11-on-11s. They didn't do any. That was their agreement with Nick Sirianni. So these reporters have no idea, unless they got intel from the club, where exactly they line up later in practice. So I wouldn't read anything into Maddox playing slot or whatever practice the reporters saw. I'd read into it if in training camp, if he's primarily in the slot, that's a very big problem. If Jacquet, by the way, that's the correct way to pronounce his name, I was told. So I've butchered it I don't know how many times. But Jacquet, if he is starting on the outside by mid-August, if he's the number one corner opposite Slay, which I don't see happening. If McPherson can't beat him out, they're going to add a veteran at some point. If that veteran doesn't win that starting job opposite Slay, this is going to be a problem.
No doubt about it. I think everybody's waiting on that. That seems to be the final piece to the offseason puzzle, is who's going to play that other spot. Because I would imagine, other than left tackle, there's not a lot of starting jobs up for grabs. That one corner spot right now.
Well, actually, we're going to get into this on our Monday show. The starting strong side linebacker job for the Eagles is open. Eric Wilson will definitely be one of their starting linebackers. Alex Singleton's not guaranteed to start. We'll see what happens there. That job's open. Left tackle, you're correct. The receiver rotation is definitely open. They won't have that set till I don't know how long. That thing will take its place once you get through training camp. So that definitely is open.
All right. Listen to the new Inside the Birds podcast you dropped this morning. The one on Monday drops at 6, and you just got a little tease of some of the stuff that's coming up there. Adam Caplan, Jeff Mosher give you Inside the Birds Mondays and Thursdays during the offseason, and, of course, every day during football at 4 right here on the Sports Bash. All right, Adam. Good to see you, pal.
Thank you, Mike. See you.
And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.